here we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, I want to welcome my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Doing terrific, Todd. It's great to be back. It's a Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah,
so,
you're back. You're back in your other house.
Yes, I am, and it's not the ideal setup. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it's. I was like, I saw you dial in this morning. I was like, well, that's a different view from behind you. So
yes.
But you had two mic. You were really doing super podcasting this morning. You were using two mics.
Two mics. Yes, my webcam was picking me up too. That was creating an interesting audio dynamic.
Yeah, I was getting this nice meeting hall echo, and at the same time was getting a little buzz. But everything it's all good now. We're up and running. But hey everyone, welcome to the show. And yes, I hope everyone in the United States had a good Thanksgiving, and hope you had plenty of. I don't know, Rob. I got up on Thursday morning, and my wife woke up about an hour earlier, and she'd already peeled the potatoes. Yes.
That's the brutal job, isn't it? Yes.
And she had bought the small ones, and I said, "Why did you buy the small ones? The bigger ones peel easier." So she threw me a bone, and so I started cooking. And by the time you get done cooking, you're kind of like, "Do you really want to eat?" But yeah, by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was in a food coma. But I did not get any of the. I was trying to find it, but didn't have enough time. The toe turkey, or whatever you call it, the faux turkey.
Faux turkey.
Faux turkey. Did not find the faux turkey, so I didn't get to try it.
Or toe turkey. Yes.
Yeah, but I got a little recipe for everyone that's out there, and this is a family secret recipe, and it's something that you may not be able to do this year, but you can do next year. We make what's known as the world famous turkey burgers following Thanksgiving.
Oh. Yeah.
So what we do, now this is a very interesting mix, and this is obviously not New Media Show related, but I always buy, or have my wife buy, an extra big turkey. So, there's 4 of us here. We can't eat very much. And you're left with leftovers from days, unless you have friends over, whatever. So anyway, we take about half the turkey, brown and white meat, and essentially kind of like really don't grind it, like super shred it. So It's real fine, but we don't put it in a food processor, but we just shred the turkey. And then we take all of the leftover stuffing, about the proportion should be like 50% turkey, 20% stuffing, 20% gravy, throw in half a can of cranberries, and appropriate amount of gravy with the turkey, and you mix that all together. And you come up with this. It's the best way to describe it is like a turkey paste.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's perfect for making a turkey kind of burger.
Right. Yeah. So you take that and you package that all up in whatever your favorite freezer proper storage is. And it used to be Tupperware, but I don't even know if they're still in business. But you put that all in packages and you freeze it, and then over the next several months, you pull a package out and you have enough for 4 or 5 sandwiches. And the toasted white bread, Miracle Whip. This is the key, not mayonnaise. Miracle Whip, and that turkey on top of there, and you basically have Thanksgiving in a sandwich. It's freaking fantastic.
It sounds like a great bachelor solution, right?
It is like we've done this for 40 years, This was a kid someone in my family came up with it when I was a kid, or they got it from someone, who knows, but it is absolutely the best. You got that turkey, you got the stuffing, a little bit of cranberry in there, mashed potatoes, and some gravy. Not a lot of gravy, but oh man, it's freaking fantastic. So anyway, there's your cooking.
There's your holiday story that we had to lead off with. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But so I don't know. I completely disconnected, and for the first Thanksgiving in years, we did not have a lot of podcasters panicking on Thanksgiving Day. I had no like emergency tickets that came in. Usually there's something, and I kept, you keep looking at emails, sneaking a look and saying, you're like, is the sky going to fall? And it was quiet. So my team got to enjoy Thanksgiving without having to deal with a podcaster that's losing her mind.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of podcasters, they find that they have extra time, so
right?
They can work on their stuff, right during the holidays.
Yeah, yes. and then it's like 3:00 in the afternoon or whatever. They've had turkey, they've had their nap from their food coma, and they're I'm like going to work on my show, and then they see something, and it's like, oh my God, I need to send a support ticket, and they do, and then it's like, I need help now. And, but it was
said
good.
Exactly like that too, right?
Yeah. Hey, Evo. Hey, Rick. Welcome to the show. Hey, if you are watching on any of our live streams, because we're everywhere, if you're on Twitter, drop a heart on the stream. We would appreciate that. If you're on Facebook, hit a like, say hello. It's all about the promo, folks. So promo the show on live. It's and make sure you say hello if you're in a chat room. Don't be a stalker.
Right. That's right. This is an interactive medium.
That's a fact. Yes. So this week, it's kind of the rest of the world moved, and the United States, like from Wednesday afternoon, shut down.
Right.
So I know I was making calls Wednesday, and I forgot, I start making calls here Wednesday morning, my time, and it's already noon on the East. And I'm like, people are not answering the phone. And I'm like, oh yeah, they busted out. They're gone for the day, Sometimes offices have their own little turkey things or have some sort of, food event, and then they shut down. So slow week.
It was a very slow week, but the only thing that really jumps out at me is a topic that was raised this past week was an article that came out that was talking about duration of a podcast, and I thought it was an interesting kind of take on it because I think it was the folks from Panoply, I think, or it was an article in the new Podcast Business Journal, but that was talking about how a podcaster needs to earn their show length. I don't know if you saw this or not.
No, I didn't. So give me the Reader's Digest version.
Well, it was this philosophy that was put out there that as a new podcaster, you should start out with a short show. And you should basically earn the length of your show, to make it longer by somehow building your relationship with your audience, so people will listen longer. So it's almost like the philosophy was like a trust relationship, right? So the more the listener trusts you or likes your show, the longer you can earn the length of your show. So what's your immediate thought on that when you hear that?
Oh, I think if I think back to when I started, I was doing 40 minutes in the beginning, 30 to 40 minutes, because I really didn't know. Yeah. And I would say that my show time length, I grew into that.
Right. It is true that the longer you podcast or the longer you create a show, there is a lot of kind of momentum that starts to take over. Because I saw this, with my own show many years ago, that it tended to get longer. It just kind of naturally happened.
What's weird about my show is that, and I've got someone helping me right now with the production. I do a certain amount of my own looking through, making sure that stuff that I'm interested wasn't missed, but the heavy lifting on the finding the articles is done by what I'm calling my executive producer. And he and I really jive from the beginning, but he was also a longtime listener of the show. But when I was doing my own production, I kind of knew where I needed to be based upon how many windows I had opened in my browser. I could tell or how many tabs I had open in my browser. I could kind of tell if I was going to be heavy or light. And knowing that the show would typically go, after I'd established it for a while, would go about 70 minutes. I tried to respect that time and actually apologize when I went over, because the listener's time is valuable, and they've allocated so much time for you. So, but one dynamic of the show is because I only do audio only when I travel, like I'm going to fly out tonight to the East Coast. My shows next week will be 55 to 60 minutes, maybe even 50 minutes. And it's because I'm not doing any video stuff, and I get to the point more. So my on the road shows tend to be shorter than when I'm home. But I've also found that my show now is more closer to the 60 to 65 minute mark than the 70 minute mark. I don't know. I think you grow into it. And I don't know, earn your audience.
Or earn your listening length, right?
Earn your listening length. I think a lot of it has to do too is in the beginning, I call it battle rhythm.
Right.
I know my show, the first 9 to 12 minutes will be spent on nothing that is tech. I break all the rules. I talk about what's going on here, what I'm up to, what's been happening this week. I spend some personal time with the audience before I get into the content. So I break every rule, but that's the way my show was always structured. Was the first 10 minutes was jibber jabber, and then content. So yeah, I think you have to find your battle rhythm. You have to find out what works and make sure you're not running out of content.
And I think that's an important takeaway too, is that there are no real rules here. I mean, you can do whatever you want with your show. I think what people tend to want to do is look at, what are the trend lines that we see in the numbers, right? But I think this duration thing of starting out short and then earning your length with your audience, there's probably a little bit of truth to that. But I also think you need to think about, what's the content that you're producing and not being real rigid on that.
Yeah. Mike in the chat room says, I think we've established that if a show goes over, it just does. Stop assigning what the viewer feels is suddenly not interesting or worthy. If you have 3 hours of engaging content, that's what you've got, and the listener has direction and a pause button, right? Well, I'm gonna say, I'll argue. I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit on that comment, Mike. And I want to make sure we get these in before they roll off. So let me come back to that in a second. He says that your habitual rule breaker is a good thing. That's why I'm amazed that you care about length. Just do the program. It happens. Well, I start getting hate email when I go over, if I get to an hour 15, I start saying, hey, the show was a little long.
Well, you've also established a long history, right? And I think it's also about expectations of your audience too.
Yeah.
Because they build it into their schedules. I've had people comment all sorts of perspectives on this.
Yeah.
Is that if your show's too short, then people complain. If the show is too long, then they complain. But it's different people that complain.
But I get the most complaints is when I go over, and maybe I've disrupted someone's commute. They wanted to listen to the last part of the show. Rick is saying, like Outback Steakhouse, no rules, just right. Discretion rather than direction. I truly do believe, though, that you have to respect the listener's time. And if I know I'm going to go long, I usually will kind of know at the beginning of the show, because I'll know based upon the amount of stuff. It says, hey, guys, it looks like I've got a lot of stuff. Probably going to go long today. I give them kind of a heads up in the beginning. They probably, I don't ever look at the time of a show. I just go look for the episode, bam, and then let me hit that and let me go. So, but again, it's going, and we're not talking about what you're talking about. What you're referring to, Rob, is the You got to earn your time. I think from my show format, I laid out the progression, and I think we all do that in our minds. After the 10th show, we know the progression that we're going to, and I've got a little document here, hasn't changed in 10 years. It's got, boom, short intro. It's got, I did add recently the top 5 things I'm going to be talking about, a welcome, welcoming new listeners, how to subscribe, how to watch, how to listen, where we're live, the chat room, email, social contacts, partner shows, sponsor, life content. That's kind of how my show's laid out, my other show.
Right.
This show, we just kind of go. We didn't even know what we're going to talk about before we start.
Right. And I do hear people talking about how you should, get right to the topics of the show. Don't talk about personal stuff at the beginning. But you're an example of how that's different, and I think it's also something to think about too. If you think about the type of medium this is, and what the expectation of your audience is. I mean, Todd, you've self-filtered your audience based on your approach to how you podcast, and I think over time people expect that from you, and they tune in for that. The people that didn't like the fact that you talked about personal stuff, that they kind of self-filtered out over the years, I think.
Well, and new folks, I haven't gotten one in a couple of years, but I used to get email from new folks all the time. Why are you spending 10 minutes at the beginning of the show? Why don't you get to the show? And my explanation is that's the way the genesis of the show has done from the beginning. It's how I stay connected to the audience. It's, it's my way of being personable. And if you don't like the personality stuff, there's this cool little slider thing on the podcast. You can slide up to 10 minutes and you can jump in and skip the stuff, but please still support the sponsor.
Right.
So the best thing is here is there's no rules and we can do what we want to do. And that's the beauty of it. If I was doing a radio program, there's no way a director would let me spend 10 minutes just blah.
Right. I mean, if you think about radio as a very separate and distinct type of medium, which I believe it is. I mean, it's a very tune in, tune out medium.
Yeah.
People are flipping stations. People are looking for different things. Podcasting is a completely different thing. You don't get people flipping between podcast episodes that quickly. So people are pretty committed. If they're going to listen, they're going to listen. If they choose not to, sure, they can turn it off and find something else. But it takes a little bit more effort to do that in podcasting. But the person that actually I'm talking about here was more Andy Bowers, who's been on this show before.
Right.
His comment was that start shorter, earn longer was his comment. And I'm pulling it from an article off of the Podcast Business Journal.
Right.
And he recommends to start out with a 20 to 25 minute episode as you're starting your podcasting process. And he just thinks that over time you can kind of maybe go a little longer, and that he thinks that that's how a lot of shows should grow their content. And I guess it's at the highest level of this, it's kind of a little hard to argue with that. But I think it depends on you as a expert in whatever area that you're focused on in your podcast. I think if you're kind of a newbie, that may not be bad advice. But he just thinks that the first few episodes of a new podcast that's 95 minutes long or something like that may be a little too much for trying to build a new beginning audience, right?
Yeah.
And there's probably something to that.
Greg says with most media, the pace is more important than the length. I think the pace and the content.
Yeah, pace is important. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what pace is. It just how fast you're talking or how quickly you're going through topics. I'm not sure about what pace really means, I guess. And what's your feeling on that?
Well, I have a certain pace to my show. Again, I feel it's and I don't really. It's hard to describe, except it's battle rhythm, and if I have like this segment that I call the soapbox. If I'm pissed off about something that's going on in the space, and I want not this about the tech space, or something's going on, I say I'm getting on my soapbox, and the octave probably will go up a little bit on loudness, and to kind of signify that soapbox. Feel of some guy standing in a street corner screaming at the top of his lungs. Mike says, I love that you encourage fast forward button, but what about the pause button for those complaining about a long program? I think the folks on the folks that are complaining about the long program want to listen to the whole show, but it's not about they're complaining the show's too long. I think the most of the complaints I personally have ever heard is that I've interrupted something that they wanted to get the whole show, but they couldn't get the whole show because maybe the commute wasn't long enough. And again, I've said for a long time, and podcasters need to understand this, is that listeners, dedicated listeners, the P1s, that's a radio term, I guess, right? The P1s, they build you into their life.
Right.
And they're going to be there. Boom. I mean, I have people, there's emails in my inbox before I get out of bed the following morning from someone that's got a comment or feedback or whatever. So people are listening right away. Rick says the 25-minute starting point wouldn't have worked for my short-term podcast simply because the content didn't fit the time format.
Wow. It's not a perfect solution for everything.
No. I think too is I lost my train of thought here. I guess it didn't matter because it wasn't that important. But I do think that shows that are new just they're going to self-adjust. They should know. They should be able to feel it.
Yeah.
But then again,
go ahead.
There's other shows though, Rob. I will admit, there's some other shows out there I wish were longer. The content's so good.
Yeah, right.
You're like, why are you quitting here? You're leaving me hanging for the next 3 days until the next episode comes out.
Yeah, and then to kind of follow along with this, we're talking about longer episodes and maybe how it maybe disrupts the commute time is the whole factor of those driveway moments, right? Those times when you pull into the garage.
Yep.
And you can't turn off the podcast, right?
Right.
For whatever that reason is, it can be a lot of different reasons, but that's happened to me quite often too. I've been listening to a program, and you pull into the garage, you sit in the garage for half an hour, 45 minutes, trying to finish the podcast.
Or you put your earbuds in, and you switch to that. And you come in the house, and then you're getting looked at. Like, I'm listening to something. Give me 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, and as more and more of these cars get direct data connections, and people are listening to content directly to their dashboards or their CarPlays or those type of experiences, the ability to switch that episode over to your mobile device is something that I don't know if that's really readily available right now, Todd, unless you're pulling off your phone.
Yeah, I'm pulling off my phone. So, hey, okay. By the way, today, if you're watching live, this is the one day of the year, the single day of the year that I root for University of Michigan. Go blue, go blue, go blue. And if we have any Ohio State fans in the house, you lose. So we'll see how it goes. I normally am a Spartan fan, and I'm never, when it's any other day of the week, it's like, I hope the Spartans lose. I mean, the U of M loses, and but this day they're playing Ohio State, and I'm just sorry. I have to change my colors for one day here.
This is football season.
Yeah, I saw Ken was in here saying "Go OSU," and Mike was like "Go Blue." So we had, they're in a common area. So anyway, best. I don't even know when the game. Just I say that I'm not even gonna watch the game. I'll find out. I'll see on Facebook and how they did later.
Well, the same thing out here, we had the Apple Cup out here, and the University of Washington beat Washington State, which I know both of those teams were ranked in the top 20 in college football. So the 16 ranked team beat I believe the 8th ranked team of Washington State.
There was some game on last night. And it was like 45-45 or some ridiculous score. I don't even know what teams are playing. I'm like, is that even possible? It shows you that two very weak defensively. Someone likes to throw the football a lot. Hey, by the way, there's no affiliate link or nothing like that, but I just want to talk about something I found, and podcasters may have a little fun with this, or it's just something you can consider as a techie item for you. I
have another one to talk about too. It's been buzzing around the podcast community.
Oh yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, we need to talk about the Podcast Business Journal too. Let's do that next. So, and most of you know what Nest cameras are. They're absolutely great cameras. I've got 3 of them in the home. One in the garage, one in here in the studio, and one in my living room. But I found these Wyze cameras, WYZE. They're called a Wyze Cam.
Yeah, I have one too. I have one here right in my living room.
They're cheap. They're like this. I think I got this for $29
$30 or $20. Yeah, exactly, $30.
Yeah. And if you saw the Facebook post, I posted a picture of the night. I put one of mine outside, just right outside the studio, pointing down my backyard, and I'm like, Nest is in trouble. These things are awesome. Now I didn't set up because it's I've got it outside, so any little movement will track a recording to the cloud. But if I had one inside, and I'll probably put one inside. Actually, I ordered one of those ones that cams that move. So you've got one of those, right?
Yeah, I have one of those. Yeah, I didn't get one of the small square ones like you have there. Mine's that taller one, but it does. It'll like track you if you walk in front of it. It'll like move.
It'll follow you, right?
Down and then back and forth. Yeah.
So that goes, and those recordings go to the cloud. So Nest, you're done. You're out. And you can buy water enclosures and stuff for these now too. So WYZE Cam, it's just incredible value. I mean, I really can't believe it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because what the Nest cams are like $120 or something.
I think when I bought them, they were close to $300. Yeah. Something a Nest, you're ripping people off.
Well, I think that's owned by Logitech now.
No, I think didn't Google buy them, or I don't remember. Someone big bought them, but the Nest cameras are nice. The lens is nicer, but for $29, you can buy 5 of these. And
for the price of one.
Yeah, and you can stack, and they don't use your internet until they trigger on something, and they they'll record to an SD card. So,
it's optional to record to the SD card. Right. Actually, I think it'll record more if you have the SD card.
Right, I put a 64 gig in it. We'll see how long it records. But anyway, sorry, I wanted to, because I was just amazed. Someone turned me on to them a while ago. I had 2 of them in a box here. Finally, yesterday, again, kind of some downtime, I got one out and played with it. But
I think it's a Christmas gift idea. I think we're doing the Christmas gift ideas here.
Yeah.
So we lead into December.
So Podcast Business Journal has launched, and we should have talked about this on the last show, but for some reason we missed it.
We forgot about it.
Yeah. And much to our chagrin, but podcastbusinessjournal.com, they've got a newsletter for free daily headlines. I thought I'd signed up for that, and I haven't been getting them, so I need to sign up today. But we've got, Rob and I are both, just disclosures, we write columns over there along with Dan Franks, Elsie Escobar. We've got Dave Jackson, Daniel, Rob Walsh, Brendan Monhagen from Panoply.
Yeah, he's the one that posted the article that I was referring to about length and duration. Yeah.
And then Alex Exum, I'm not real familiar with him at all.
He's the co-host on my Spreaker live show.
Oh, okay. Well, ta-da. That's okay. So they've got, And most of our stories, though, sadly, were buried because they published them before the news for the journal went live.
Yeah, so, back in October.
In October,
put
right?
The articles up. Yeah.
So I'm working on my second piece that I've got to get finished and get into them. But
yeah, I am too. Yeah.
Other than that, this is another source here. So we've got Pod News, we've got Podcast Business Journal, and then of course we've got oh my God, I'm pulling a brain fart here. The Pod to Pod folks, which really now it's only a newsletter now, pretty much a newsletter. So a number of news sources out there that
good to see. It's good to see. We've kind of needed it for a while.
Yeah. But anyway, so Podcast Business Journal, get over there and get signed up, and I'll be watching, see how much overlap there is between the two different newsletters. And of course, you know, it's nice to have the ability to. I'm glad someone did it because, you know, I quit reading Nick's magazine or Nick's newsletter 3-4 months ago. I just was getting absolutely no value whatsoever out of it. And if sometimes someone says, "Did you see what Nick said?" and I'm like, "No."
Well, I think it was also announced that I think Inside Radio also announced that they were going to be launching a podcasting newsletter as well.
Oh, interesting. So I wonder who they're going to get to write for them.
I don't know. I haven't heard any bubbling around about that. I'm sure it's going to be folks from the radio industry, probably.
Yeah. Well, okay. Cool.
That would be my guess because I haven't been contacted. And
yeah.
I know that the folks at the Podcast Business Journal were a little concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Rick says, "I really like the Podcast Business Journal so far. My only concern is that it will stick around for the long term. I've subscribed to a number of other podcast publications in the past that have come and gone. We need this." You know, I think, Rick, what it will really be, you know, they've got to sell some advertising on that site, and they have already, talking to them a little bit, and I know that they've got a couple of advertisers on the site already. So it's really going to be, you know, they are dedicated to this, but I think they are going to have to make some, you know, they're going to have to sell that ad space to support it. They're not going through the same model that James did with Patreon, which I really like. James has done real good with the Patreon model on his.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what James has done because he's taken more of a global view of this medium, which I think is important. Yeah. So it's good to have a resource like that looks at it more on a global basis. And yeah, Todd, I agree with you that the advertising part with the Podcast Business Journal is definitely important. There's no question about that. So, and there has been talk about a physical publication too, but I think the online one has to prove itself a little bit on that side, on the sponsorship side, before they'll jump into that.
And let's be honest, paper, no one gets. Do you get any paper magazines?
Yeah, I still get some. It's just, does anybody read them is the issue.
The only ones I get are the ones people send me for free.
Well, I agree with that.
I don't pay for not a single subscription to anything. And
and they tend to just pile up in the corner in your house somewhere.
Well, they end up in the throne room in a magazine rack where you have you have 5 minutes of reading time, you know, to scan an article. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that where your magazines end up, as the throne room?
Some of them do. I would say most of them will wind up on the family room table or something like that. More than any other place. I tend to not want to spend a lot of time in the throne room.
Well, me neither. That's what I'm saying. You get 5 minutes of reading time. That's it, right? Oh.
Yeah, bad.
Yeah, so someone said, remember Pottertainment? Pottertainment was, I give Gary creds for trying to do that.
Yeah, I think it was the wrong kind of medium. I think trying to do it through the
Apple Store,
like a PDF kind of thing, was not the right way to go. Yeah.
Oh, my sister's asking me a question right now about the MacBook. She says, which iMac, or is she looking at, what is she looking at here? Retina 5K display. I think she's looking at a MacBook. Oh, I've got a story about a MacBook. Well, I have to call her. Let me just doing a show. I'll call you. Did you hear about the cat destroying a MacBook Pro?
I did hear about your cat destroying your MacBook Pro. So how did you wind up getting it fixed? Did you get it repaired, or did you have to replace it?
Okay, so this is a freaking scam. So those of you that haven't heard, I got a cat here that loves to kill geckos. And if you don't know what a gecko is, it's a lizard that climbs on the walls. And in Hawaii, you have geckos in your house. It's just a thing. Usually you try to get rid of them because they're crapping places. So you don't want them in the house. You try to get them out.
Right.
And so my cat's been pretty effective in getting rid of the geckos. So the only thing I can think of, in my son's room, the cat got up. The gecko must have been high because the cat was trying to get on a shelf that was way up that had memorabilia knickknacks on. And all I know is that immediately following the New Media Show last Saturday, I heard this horrendous crash. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And then about a minute later, I hear my son screaming at the cat, yelling at this cat. And then like 30 seconds later, the pitch of his screaming changed. And I heard him screaming, "Oh my God, my MacBook." And of course, me, my ears perked up. This shelf had fallen, hit. Now they'd been cleaning up in the room, and they had one of those spray bottles of just general cleaning solution. I think it was from Melaleuca. That shelf busted the top of the cap off. The bottle flipped for like 3.5 feet and landed flat on the keyboard and went doop, 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 and dumped half a bottle of cleaning solution on the keyboard of the Mac. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. And of course, he's screaming at the top of his lungs. Now, I've told him, if there's an uncovered drink, if there's anything that's within here's my MacBook, here's where my drink is over here. I told him, I said, if I find anything, you lose it. You lose it for a month. So he's been real good. But this shelf hit this bottle, was like 3.5 feet away.
Oh, boy.
So I took it to the Mac store. They wanted $1,400 to fix this thing. And it's a $2,300 laptop. And I'm just looking at this guy incredulously. And I'm like, nope, not going to do it. And they'd quoted me $700 over the phone. So I thought, okay, $2,300 laptop. And people are going to say, why does your kid have a $2,300 laptop? He's in a media program in high school. It's called Minimac. And and I had a MacBook Pro. I gave him for this. He does visual audio stuff. It's a big deal. And it was part of the requirement. We had to have them. They had to have some sort of So I just told my son, listen, dude, I've got a Windows machine back here. You're going to have to use that. So he's just like devastated. And someone in Facebook sent me a link to a video that the CBC did in Canada on Apple's extraordinary repair prices. And in that video, there's a guy that's in New York City. He does it's the name of the company is Rossmann. It's called Rossmann Repair Group. He's on First Avenue in Manhattan, and he repairs MacBooks. And so at about 2:00 yesterday afternoon, the MacBook Pro's boxed up and is heading to New York City. So we'll see what he can do. But, ouch.
So you think you have to replace the keyboard?
I think
the whole CPU.
Who knows? We got it wiped off really quick, but still, it was. And here's the way the MacBook works: if you get a drop of water on the motherboard, they're done. They very
Get
easy.
shorted.
Yeah. So, I'm sure more than a drop got through the keyboard. So we'll see if they can, if they can recover the keyboard. But it was a chemical too. It's not just water. So I'm sure there's going to be some corrosiveness going on. So if he tells me it's, I got to replace the logic board but he says that the guy said in his videos that they will do component fixes, which is cheaper than replacing the logic board. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Keep your damn cats away from the. Yeah. Cat cost me $2,300.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think, go ahead. You were going to talk about something for a cool item for Christmas or something, right?
Yeah. Well, that Rode new mixer,
the
Rode mixer.
Yeah, the
podcaster. Everybody's been buzzing around about. Looks really, really interesting. I think I don't know if I know what the model is, but it's like a mixer. It's like a 4-channel input mixer that has built-in, I guess, setting configuration to do mix minus or taking in Skype calls. Plus, it has a Bluetooth capability to be able to pull in phone calls off your phone. I don't know if you saw that or not, Todd.
Yep.
And then an ability to just patch in like an iPad or something like that directly into this mixer board. And it also has the ability to record.
Right.
Also, which looks like it could be. And then it has like a touch board that you can program with pre-recorded audio segments. So you can have like your intros, exits, all that stuff built in to touchpad buttons on the mixer itself, so you can really bring in a lot of audio sources into this thing.
So how does it bring in the phone source? Is it bringing it in via Bluetooth or what?
Bluetooth.
Oh, so someone can call you or do Skype and patch it in via Bluetooth? Does anybody played with this thing?
I would think that you would be able to do that via Bluetooth, yeah. But you also can do it just through a regular mix minus too. If you have a secondary computer, you just plug it into one of the mic inputs.
Do they have a mix minus on that?
Yeah, it's built into the. I guess it's like a button that you push, and it basically sources one of the XLR inputs as the source in for the Skype connection, and then it kind of mutes the other ones, right?
Right.
So that's built into the mixer, I guess.
Yeah.
So that kind of fixes that configuration challenge that a lot of podcasters have of getting a mix minus set up.
Yeah. Well, I saw it. It's a little pricey.
It's $5.99?
Yeah, it's $6. So I wish
it's a little expensive, but it's very capable.
It'd be nice to get a review unit to play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But if it's small enough to be able to go on the road, I'm getting ready to, I'm looking at my CES configuration because I'm changing things up a little bit this year. Every year I try to shrink the amount of stuff that I take. And so it's interesting.
Yeah, it's really modern looking. It looks like it's relatively small too, like maybe 9 inches square or something like that. It doesn't seem to be all that big.
Are they selling a case for it, a hard case for it? I wonder.
I didn't see that for sure. I didn't see that.
Yeah, some third party will come up with something.
That would be probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah, anything that has a knob on it.
Right. Yeah, it's got those sliders on each of the input tracks. Yeah. So, yeah, you would definitely want to have something to protect it. No question.
Yeah, Mike is saying Rode will pack it with a mic and make all kinds of money. Well, I think it's $600 and making all kinds of money.
Right. But from what I can tell, it hasn't actually come out yet. So
they're saying December 15th.
Right.
So some people have reviewed it. Some people have their hands on them already. So,
well, I feel left out.
Yeah, me too. ProGear.guru. We do audio reviews.
We'd be happy to talk about it on the show.
Huh. Well, I just, I hate just going out and buying something just to test it too. So, I guess I do have a Rode contact, so maybe I'll reach out and see if I can get one.
And that's spelled was it R-O-E-D-E, right?
No, right? R-O-D-E, Rode.
Just R-O-D-E.
Yeah, okay. yeah.
That's right. And I think you can probably find it if you go to their website.
Yeah, I think what do they call it, the Procaster or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Procaster. That sounds familiar. Yep.
Rick was asking, my only question is whether or not it records separate tracks. You guys are going to laugh, but I've always done single track recording here.
Well, that, and also whether or not it has enough gain boost to boost, a Shure SM7B or something like that, which is a very popular microphone in podcasting. So if they had done their research, they would have put a good, clean, powerful
amplifier
preamp in that. Right?
Well, they'd have to put 4 powerful preamps, and if they did, then that would explain the cost.
Yes.
But if you hook a Shure up to it, SM7B, and you turn it to Unity, and you don't have enough, and you have to go higher, and you start getting
when you have to get a cloud lifter in order to make that work. Then
right.
Yeah, I have a Shure SM7B myself, so I have to get a specific kind of like a USB interface to be able to use that microphone.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you don't go into a mixer then?
No, I go into a USB interface.
Oh.
I mean, I used to run it off of a Mackie mixer,
yep.
and it worked okay for a while. None of those really have enough gain to drive those. Really, the only thing that does is the cloud lifter.
For those of you watching the show, you don't even want to know. Well, I'll tell you, this mic here, even with a Mackie mixer, it didn't have enough oomph. So I've got it running through a Solo 610, and yes, you'll gasp when you look at the price on that.
Yeah.
That's usually the cost people spend. What I spend on that, people would, that's their entire studio budget.
Yeah. So what kind of a gain kind of range does that amp have for you?
That amp,
is it 100? Is it 100 or 70 or?
Well,
80?
it's a tube amp, first of all.
Yeah.
So part of the way this mic sounds is because of the way that tube amp is, but I don't care what the actual dB increase is. It just gets it done. And I can run the Mackie mixer at Unity. I run the entire chain at Unity. You
also have a compressor on that mic.
I do. Right? I do have a compressor on it, but I run that compressor at 0 gain as well.
Oh, you do?
Right. It sets at Unity. So the amplifier really is setting the noise floor on the entire path.
Right. I mean, it's clean. There's no question.
Right.
I don't ever hear any background hiss on your input.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a. But again, if I had to build the studio all over again, I'd probably have an ATR 2100 just sitting here.
Right. I got one sitting here. It's a backup to this one that I'm using here, which is it's an MXL.
Oh, you got one of the MXL mics.
And it has this kind of
blue. We can tell you're off
light to it.
We can tell you're off key mic. Off. Yeah. You're talking to the side of it.
Right. Yeah, you have to be careful talking into these. I mean, it's a full condenser microphone. So
sure.
That's probably why I sound a little different compared to what I normally sound like
this
off of the Shure.
This one's condenser too, so it's very susceptible to. It's not like a dynamic. I think about 95% of the folks in the podcasting space run on dynamic mics, but my problem is
it's smart. Right?
Well, it is, but for me, what I have found on dynamic mics is I don't get the sound I want.
Right, I agree with you. The condenser microphones give you a frequency range that you just can't get off of a dynamic.
Right.
There's no question. Of course, that's why you pay.
Right. That's
$400
why
or $500 for these things. Right.
That's why you pay the big bucks. Yeah.
Yep.
But it definitely gives me. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the microphone that I used for my radio show that I did for 6 years, those were $695 condenser microphones.
This is
terrific sound.
Yeah, this is a Blue Mic mouse. So that's, I think the retail on this now is about $1,400.
Right.
So it's it's not cheap. And I've had I've used the Heil PR40. I'm not a fan. It's not for me. I like the 20 better, believe it or not. I like the Heil PR. If you ever get to like Podcast Movement and they have a booth where they have a bunch of mics, go over there and spend 15 minutes and go through each mic. You're going to be amazed at the deltas. Most people don't know that there's this different range of sound. And we all cringe as it is to listen to our voices, right? None of us like to hear ourselves. But when you're testing a mic, you get up on it and you're going to find the mic that you like.
Yeah. And they all sound a little different. So it makes, but it's hard, Todd. I mean, it's hard to know what the right microphone is for your voice. It's always hard to know.
I went to Sweetwater when I was first starting, and I didn't have any budget. Yeah. And I've played around with some dynamics there, and the guy had this this MXL, and I think I've got it around here somewhere. It was $100 mic condenser. And I used that for many, many years. But again, I think really what it is when you find a mic that you like, that has the sound that you want, you just, I'm loyal to this. I don't even know what I would do without. If this mic got destroyed, I'd have to go buy another one. Or I'd be hard pressed to find, it's just the sound that I like.
Can you even buy that microphone still?
You still can. Yeah, they still sell it. And this is a pretty diverse mic. You'll find this mic in front of, in bands will use it in front of drum sets, and it's a variety of different places.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much, I agree with you, Todd. There's so much diversity in microphones, and it's this whole ecosystem. And I know at the NAB Las Vegas, the fellow from the podcast, I think it was the podcast engineering school, put up a kind of like a demo booth of a bunch of different microphones, and you could go from one mic to the next.
Yep.
And to figure out which type of microphone that you liked. You had condensers, dynamics. But Todd, you can also spend $1,000 on a dynamic microphone too.
So. You can, sure can.
Right. So it isn't necessarily the dynamics are always the cheapest, but they do have a different sound.
Yeah. And it is truly. And I was just looking the price of this one up. It's $1,279 right now is the price on that. So it's not at all a cheap mic.
And most podcasters aren't.
No. They're not. That's like that was when I was young and building a studio But I had a different purpose. But again, there wasn't an ATR 2100 USB mic available when I started.
Right.
This mic's been in front of me for 10 years. So.
Yeah. And Todd, did you have to do any kind of like sound buffering in your room there?
I do nothing. None.
Okay. Yeah. Because most of these condenser microphones, and this is something that doesn't always get talked about, is that you really have to be concerned about your audio kind of. The echo potential, especially around a dynamic, or not a dynamic, but a condenser microphone, because you can really have a problem with that.
Yeah, so there's about, if I put my fist straight out in front of me, my monitor to my computer is just maybe another inch beyond my fist length. So what will happen on a condenser is if I really get on this and get loud, my voice will hit the screen and bounce back into the back side of the condenser. So, it's usually not an issue. And the way I test that is just put my hand up in front of the back side of the mic to see if I'm getting any feedback, and I usually don't. So that was, that's a big thing you have to test for on a condenser, is that same thing, is getting that. And it's susceptible to hearing more noises, and that's why I run a sound gate.
Right.
Or a compressor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'll pick up every little thing. Everything. If you rustle any paper, or put a pen down or something like that, it's definitely going to pick it up.
Yep.
Yeah, I had that big problem, with those mics that I used to do. I had to put up foam sheets on my walls in my bedroom in the old days because it was going to pick up everything. I
think sometimes simply putting carpet down in a room does wonders.
Or putting pictures on the wall. Or, some people will use condenser microphones, but they'll record their shows in their clothes closets. Right. If they have walk-in clothes closets, it's actually a perfect audio environment to record it if you're using high-quality microphones.
And in the studio, there's 2 windows and a sliding glass door, so the windows are always open. So I think that helps too. Even though I'm susceptible to street noise, that the sound goes through the windows and it really doesn't bounce back at me. So there's places for some of the audio to go. It's and then guess what? This is a podcast. Screw it if I get some road noise.
Right. It's called sound depth, Todd.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, so Todd, is there any more comments or feedback on the whole Pandora issue that popped up? I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I know that there was a little bit of a follow-up with the Podcast Business Journal with quotes from us.
I haven't heard anything from them from that. I have talked to them last week, and I guess for
they
better...
Ed took quotes from last week's show to write an article.
We're talking to, I will say that I am talking to Pandora.
Sure.
And getting a list of shows ready for them, a small list of shows.
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing with us. We're on the Spreaker side, we're doing that as well.
Yeah. Keyword is small list of shows.
Well, I think that they're wanting to take on, a small group of shows to get started with here. I don't know that they have a process yet that they can add a lot of shows rapidly. So,
yeah, well,
yeah,
I think we'll see what happens here with with this offering.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of potential, though.
Yeah. So what did you think of the article? Did you get any feedback from anybody from the article?
From my article for the Podcast Business Journal?
No, from what Ed wrote in Podcast Business Journal on Pandora?
I didn't get any direct feedback on it. No, I think most of the people that probably would have read that probably heard us on the show. So it probably wasn't anything new.
So you didn't hear from Pandora directly or anything like that?
No. And I don't think we talked about anything more than just our kind of our personal, thoughts on it, not so much disclosing anything proprietary.
Yeah.
So, which I don't think there is a lot of proprietary to disclose. But
no, we just talked about what they're doing in public, what's publicly available. So,
right, just good.
Yeah. So let's see here. Bada bing, bada boom.
What's coming up with your schedule here in January? You're going to CES, right? So what are you doing down there?
So we had, well, I guess I can safely say it here. Last year, we moved over to the Sands, and we did a lot of content with startups. And maybe it's important. Maybe I should discuss this, and because it's been a while since I talked about this, and we've got new listeners. So every year I go to CES with basically whoever wants to come from the Tech Podcast Network. And over the last 3 or 4 years, that's been a small group. It's been myself from Geek News Central. It's been Don Bain, the Gadget Professor. It's been the team from F5 Live. And it's been a gentleman out of Iowa that does a show called The Tech Ranch. And we all have our own kinds of stuff. The Tech Ranch, they like to do automation, drones, The F5 guys focus a lot on gaming and, in general topics. Don focuses on gadgets and gear, and I basically, I'm really kind of an all-comer. I like to look at everything that's cool. So we go and cover the show. In years past, we've done, had a broadcast booth at the North Hall. It took a 1-year break. I think this is the 6th or 7th, maybe 8th year that we've live streamed during the show. Last year, we moved over to the Sands, and we're in the broadcast tower. We've got a suite in the broadcast tower, and we put our studio up inside that. It's really tight quarters, and you get more than 3 people in there, and you're packed in like sardines. But it's big enough where we can set up a table, have a backdrop, and essentially do the live show from there. And the goal at the Sands was to get a platform. And last year, we kept walking by this platform that was supposedly scheduled, and it was empty the entire week. And I told Don, I says, man, we're going for that platform next year because they provide security, they provide the internet. Right. We got to show up with gear and set up and go. And I said, this has been the end goal from the beginning. And I went into negotiations in June, and she said, oh no, that platform was used every day. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. And we went back and forth. And she said, the same group wants to use it again this year. And I'm like, and because I put a bid in for that platform, and she said, well, I'll make it platform in another area. I'm like, cool. So they came back with a proposal, and they couldn't get us a square. It was like an L-shaped platform. It just wouldn't work. It was weird. And so I basically said, we'll go back to the suite, and we'll just work out of there. So my irritation level was pretty high that we didn't get the platform. But what we do is, and the reason we went to the startup section is because most of these big companies at CES now, when they come to the booth, they've got a PR handler, and that PR handler's job is to get the interview, get in, get out, and not allow you to have a lot of contact with the person that you're interviewing. Even the business cards that you ask for business card from the owner often will have the PR company's email address. And so we don't go there to meet PR companies. We go to meet companies, executives, decision makers, developers. And I just got sick and tired of the PR people being gatekeepers. So we said, okay, let's go to Sands and set up in Sands, because most of the companies there are startups. Very few of them have a PR team. And if they do, there's only 20 people on the team. I can get to the guy later that I need to without having to go through the gatekeeper of the PR company. So that worked out really, really well last year with the startups, and these folks are very excited, and not all of them survived. Some of them are, but some of them will grow into 100 by 100 booths at someday. But they're there in a 10 by 10 with a maxed out credit card and trying to get the product off the ground. So I'm changing my mode of operation this year. I'm not walking the floor. Everyone that wants, and I used to do 2-3 hours in the booth and then walk the floor with a camera and interview people on the floor. This year I'm doing strictly live. You don't want to come to me, I'm not coming to you. And if they want me to come to them, then get your credit card out. I'm not doing the I'm going to handpick the companies I want to talk to. We're going to do them live. And so I'm not going to be doing as much at CES this year as I have in the past. But it's still, for me, it's in the team, it's this plethora of new content, which the ultimate goal is to get exposure to our main shows to drive new subscriber numbers.
Right. It's to grow your shows.
Right. It's to grow the main show. Yeah. I do the secondary feed of content. We call it the special media feed, and it's got all the thousands of interviews we've done over the years at CES and NAB and a variety of events that we go to.
Yeah.
But it's so freaking expensive to do that. And I'm going on Todd's dime. I'm not going on Raw Voice's dime.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have to pay for every hotel room, every airline ticket, food, pay the daily rate for if I get a cameraman, and then you start racking up, 5-digit bills to do a show. And then the PR people are being gatekeepers and not making it very hard to have access to the main folks or the decision makers at these companies. I can't pay bills later on when gatekeepers do that. The PR people are screwing themselves. If you're a PR person, you there's a give and take when it comes to the media folks. We're not there to, we're there to cover, but we also have to pay for this.
Right. Yeah. It's everybody's trying to take advantage of all that coverage, right? And not really be a ongoing resource for you. And that's I would think that's the issue, right?
The goal is to have them become an ongoing resource. Right.
Right. Yep.
And, and it would pay back with review units we got to keep. It would be exclusive interviews. It would be small sponsorships. It ran the gambit, And when I can't, if I'm going to spend $20,000 to go to that event, it better generate 20,000 plus in revenue to have made it worth my while to go. Now, granted, there's the ancillary stuff of I'm building my authority. I'm building, continue to build the Geek News Central brand. That's all part of it. But at the end of the day, I have to look at the value. What is that really returning, new listener wise and dollar wise? And there's so many. Of course, we were so unique. We were so early doing that. We had very few people to compete with. It was Twit. It was us. It was a couple of others. Now everybody and their brother is there live streaming. So, and guys that are got, they're humping backpacks and live view broadcast units, and they're not even in a studio per se. But those are 20-year-old dudes. I'm 54. I'm not humping a backpack and a live view unit and carrying cameras, and I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you're not going to do that kind of stuff anymore.
Nope.
Well, I think live is still continuing to be a kind of a hot area. I know that I heard that the Podcast Movement folks are going to be having a live streaming stage down with the exhibition area.
Rob.
Year.
Yeah, I heard who's sponsoring it too.
Well, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Who else in the medium or in the space should? Right?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yes, Rob's company is sponsoring the live streaming at Podcast Movement.
Yes.
Or the company that you work for. It's funny.
Yeah. So there's going to be content that's available at Podcast Movement that people can watch. It's not just going to be audio, Todd. It's going to be video too.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you're going to do video too. Wow.
Right. It's going to be live video, and there's going to be presentations on podcasting at the event. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, it should be fun.
We'll have to get you up on the stage there, Todd.
Yeah. Actually, damn it. I forgot. What is today's date? I got to get something submitted. I got to get my Pod Fest shit submitted. My session submitted.
Yeah, well, it's probably time to start thinking about that.
Yeah, I've got it written up. I just got to make sure the editors have edited it, and we'll get it.
Well, yeah, and I think you said something that you were going to take a different approach this next year, with your content stuff, right?
Yeah, about the engagement. Yeah.
Right.
Engagement and advertising, and it's not just the ad deal.
Yeah, and when do we want to talk about what we think are going to be the hot trends in 2019?
Oh, well,
you want to do that as we get closer to the end of the year?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Our hot trends. This is kind of That's, we ought to go back and look and see if our trends that we predicted last year actually
happened.
If it actually happened. So we'll have to go back and find the actual article that we talked about.
Well, if you post it to your blog, it's like, anybody can see it, right?
Yeah. But the space is, there was a regurgitation of an article that came out in September. Someone posted on Facebook about
about the bubble bursting.
About the bubble bursting, the doom and gloom of podcasting.
Yeah, and it sparked a bunch of discussion again. So
oh my God, it's failing, it's going away.
That's right. It's all going to fall apart after all these years.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think so. And then the ongoing discussion about the name needs to go, Todd.
Oh.
Podcast is holding podcasting back.
Again?
Again. It's just not growing fast enough, Todd. Didn't you get the memo?
It's not. Yes. Well, I think we both have our own opinions on where the space has grown. Right.
It's growing in good equilibrium.
Yes, and I have I'm pleased with where the space is growing, how it's growing. And maybe some people are still want to see it grow faster, but
well, some people are on more of a time ticker than others, aren't they?
Right. Well, they're tick tock, the money might run out. Yep.
Especially when you don't really have a business model, right?
Yeah. It's good to be in a business though where you have to stay on your toes and keep moving the ball forward, but also not be under the pressure that that the plug could be pulled at any moment. That the next deposit in your checking account from your venture guys would not be withheld, and go through the pressure of having to say how we're going to get from A to B, and meet milestones, because that's what a venture is all about. Is the folks might here's the deal: the companies might get $20 million, but they just don't deposit. Typically, they don't deposit the full $20 million in an account.
No, it's usually given out in stages based on performance.
It's doled out little by little, and they're given some leeway, but they can hold the dole back, saying
you guys aren't really
right
when the growth be put in our requirements plan.
And it depends on how big of a bullshit artist you are, on whether or not you can put together a presentation that makes your investors satisfied enough to give you the next increment of cash. Right. Especially if you're not meeting goals. Now, if you're meeting goals, if you're meeting, the timelines, then you're going to continue to get your checks.
Right.
At least go ahead.
They definitely set up timed kind of goals, right, that you have to hit in order to get the next part of your investment fund.
Right.
So, right. Which presents some challenges at times. Which also means that if you don't hit those targets, you may run out of cash faster than you had.
Right. But I'm just glad I'm not in a business. I'm glad my business is not, surrounded by the venture guys that are, and venture guys can also bring you great success too, just by the contacts they have. And, their goal is to help you grow, and they're going to connect you with all their people that, have helped them in the past and to be successful and make introductions. So there are plus and minuses to having that venture funding too. So they'll have access to people that I will never get access to.
And if you want to see a little bit of how that works, just watch the the TV show Shark Tank.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I think that's it's almost the same model. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a little skewed towards entertainment more than it is substantive. I mean, I think that the venture capital process is a little bit more hard-nosed. Even I think what you see on Shark Tank.
Because you're going to go in with I've done the run through Silicon Valley, and we've talked about on the show before the reception that I received, and I think at the time I was about 36 or 37, and being told I was too old and that my team would need to move to Silicon Valley, and just all these. It was a very negative experience for me for going around and getting money. But I look at it in hindsight, I'm probably lucky we didn't get any money or didn't take any money, because we probably wouldn't exist today. You look at all the companies that have taken money in the past, they're all gone. Is there anybody left that took money?
That's actually a really good point, Todd. As far as those in the podcasting space?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know that I can recall of any that are...
They're still with us.
Still, chugging along and doing well.
Yeah.
I think Audio Boom is probably one.
They took venture?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Okay. So, again...
they started out as a different company. They started as Audio Boo.
Right.
Or something like that. And I think they took big chunks of venture capital back then. Like 20 plus million or something like that.
What did Mevio take? 36 million or something like that?
I don't even remember, actually.
It was a big number.
But it was big, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big number.
But though, people talk about Mevio, and I've heard people reference it in the, here in the recent time frame as an example of, something. But they were focused more on video towards the end, if you think about it. And a lot of people think of them as focused on podcasting.
Right.
They weren't really that focused on podcasting.
Yeah.
So
now Adam Curry did in episode 1084 of the No Agenda Show. He spent about 10 minutes talking about the definitive history of the beginning of podcasting. And there was a couple of things that came out. And again, he says to best his recollection, a couple of things came out in that I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So it supposedly someone clipped it and put it on SoundCloud someplace. And I was actually going to get the clip and add it to this show, and I'll see if I can. So I'll see if they Creative Commons it. They said you can reuse it. So maybe if I find it, maybe I can add it to the end of the show, and you guys can hear Adam talk about the definitive history of podcasting. And it's a pretty good look back. And of course, people are going to there's lots of people trying to contest Adam on some of this.
Right.
And I don't know.
I've had feuds with Dave Weiner about the history of this too. I mean, everybody has a different perspective on it. I know I got a email from a guy that told me, because based on my article for Podcast Business Journal, because I kind of do a little bit of a run through on the 15-year history of the medium and talk about those things. And he brought up this software platform that was around in 2000 or in 1997 called Auto Alex or something like that basically synchronized audio files to...
no one remembers that shit.
To computers. I know, I don't either. But then there's other examples too, like Microsoft Sync and Go, right?
Right.
Did the synchronization between Windows XP and Pocket PC devices, where it transferred audio and video files. But it wasn't podcasting.
No.
But it was a precursor. To what would turn into be podcasting.
And I think
it wasn't based on open RSS.
And I think even Adam talks about a precursor. He talks about some application that did this, that made him want to have an automated way to do this. So the genesis of the idea came from something he'd used before. Right.
I mean, there were many other platforms. I was using them because I started doing my show in 1999. So I was starting to distribute my show online as an MP3 file in 99. And so I started looking for ways that I could distribute my MP3 files. And that's where I went down this path of starting to work with it. There were platforms called Serenade and Sync and Go and other ones out there that they were just transferring MP3 files from one PC to another PC is what they were doing. There weren't a lot of mobile devices back then. There were cell phones, but a lot of the early cell phones didn't even support MP3.
Yeah.
So they were all supporting AAC or other forms of audio codec. And I mean, the early company that I worked for, Melodious, Mobilecast was in 2005. Actually, created Java apps for pre-smartphones, and we had to convert all the MP3 files to these other audio codecs to even play on mobile devices. So,
right.
I mean, podcasting, it's really hard to say that podcasting started before, the 2004 time period.
Mm-hmm.
But there were precursors. There were example platforms that were out there that gave people the idea, and going back a long ways. But they weren't. I don't consider them to be podcasting platforms because that didn't really start until 2004.
Yeah.
So that's. But yeah. I mean, it wasn't a new idea, really, what Adam did. I mean, the method was a little bit new, but the idea of it wasn't really new.
Okay, so I just found it, the history of podcasting from No Agenda Show 1084, and I found the SoundCloud. Can you download from SoundCloud? I don't think you can you?
Well, you can if you have a podcast, right?
But there's no way to actually download their. Oh my God, you're making me sign in. I don't think you can download off of their user experience on their website. No, I don't think so. I don't even want to set up an account on their site. Oh my God, this is sacrilegious. There's got to be a feed for this show, and I'll find it and get it downloaded. I'll add it to this. It's 18 minutes. It's going to add 18 minutes to the show today, guys, folks. Well, it'll probably only be on the audio portion of the show. I won't add it to the video portion of the show.
Right. Which is what most people listen to anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, we are at time here. So.
Right. It's amazing how that goes.
Yeah. So let me see here.
Todd, did we earn the length of our episode today?
I think so. How about the audience? Did we earn the length of our show today?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. So this is just, okay, this is one of the reasons why I don't like SoundCloud. I may have to just go to Adam's show and just pull it off that. It might be easier. So, All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. Todd at blueberry.com or at Geek News on Twitter. Rob?
Rob at voxnest.com. Or you can send it to Rob at robgreenlee.com if you want to send more to a personal email.
And there will be no show next Saturday. I'm on an airplane coming back, Rob, so we'll miss next week. And but other than that, we'll be back with you as soon as we can, and look forward to being back with you. But anyway, thanks for being here. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Make sure you hit the subscribe button or like or star or plus or whatever it is, wherever you're listening now, especially if it's on Twitter or any place like the hearts that we get. If we get 100,000 or something like that hearts, we can become a super producer on Periscope.
Awesome.
Yeah. Maybe it'll take us a year to get there. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on the New Media Show. Everyone, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.